And the season's over just like that. The Celtics blow a 3-1 lead, lose to the Sixers in game 7 on Boston's home floor. 3 straight losses. This is brutal. We come into the season not expecting this team to be a contender. So from preseason expectations, we understand this is kind of what we all expected. In fact, this is on the better side of what people expected, the more optimistic side. Some people didn't even think the Celtics would make it through the playing tournament. Obviously, Boston did what they did for the regular season, ended with the second seed. Expectations shifted, and then we get let down. I'm your boy Adam Taylor. Here, so I'm your boy Adam Taylor. Welcome to the Celtics Chronicle podcast. As usual, I'm joined by my homie, compadre, co-host in crime, Mr. Billy Calabrese. Billy, it's been a tough few days for Celtics fans, man.
Dude, it's really dark times, man. I know we all love wrestling around here, but I just feel like we got worked by this team, man. And it wasn't
Oh,
only us. It was the fan base. It was the media. It was the odds makers. They made I really started to believe like, hey, maybe they are a contender. But nah, the work was in, man.
I'm telling you right now, man, I did not have the Celtics being a contender at the start of the season, and then they started to make me believe, man. The way Jaylen Brown played, the way Neemias Cater improved. And we could go through the roster of that, what each guy showed as a development piece. And I don't think we'd struggle to really until we got towards the end. But this series, man, and I wrote about this, go over, check it out on the CelticsChronicle.com. I wrote about this after game 6. Embiid was just, his first game back was whatever, like, he was finding his footing. But game 6 and 7, Embiid just flipped the script. He was the difference maker, the X factor. And like, I think my biggest takeaway from this whole series is the big man rotation cannot be the big man rotation next season. Nimi, for all the good he did, all the improvement he showed during the regular season, he is not the guy to build a contending team around. And I was on that soapbox last summer, and I stayed on it until about midway through the season when I got to a point when I was like, oh, well, he's being impactful. Let's see how it goes. And I kind of like eased off that pedal. But this series, he was a non-factor. And okay, granted, his best game of the series came in game 7, and he stepped up when they needed him most in terms of offense. I get that. But he had no answer for Embiid. Now, my biggest pushback to my own stance here is, well, if you're judging a young guy based on how he dealt with a former MVP that was having a resurgent series, then, you're kind of setting the bar a little bit too high. And I think that's fair. But I also just think that this never happened with Horford. We spoke about this just before we came on air. If you go onto my Twitter page, you can see I tweeted that out yesterday. Horford has been the biggest miss throughout this series. Where are you standing on all this, Billy, man? Because it's a lot to digest.
I mean, Kata went to big man school. These 7 games are either going to change his career in a positive way or a negative way. I think it's actually something he's going to learn from because he did actually improve every game this series. And I know Celtics fans don't want to hear this right now, but I think they're going to pick up the team option. They're going to extend him. He's going to get somewhere in that $490 million range, basically the max we could offer him to keep him. And he's going to be the big man we build around. And then we just have to get a suitable backup. There's just not that many guys out there that can stop Embiid. If that's the bar that we're going to hold him to, well, guess what? I don't think Bam's walking through that door.
And this is my point. Like, I'm kind of counteracting my own stance on this by saying that, Embiid's a higher bar. And I'm not saying to move on from Nimi. I'm not. I'm saying that there needs to be a better rotation around him. And if that means he's not the starting 5, then so be it. If he is still the starting 5, you need a more versatile guy like an Onyeka Okongwu, who isn't walking through the door either because of the way the Hawks have played over the last few months since moving on from Trey. But like a guy like that can play on the perimeter a little bit more, that isn't defined by his drop coverage or his at the level coverage. The big man rotation is the biggest weakness on this team right now. In terms of playoff basketball, I do not expect Vucevic to be back.
Absolutely not. He didn't play a single minute tonight. And I think that was basically a message Joe sent, like, we're just done with this dude. It's honestly, it's kind of sad because if it was a different matchup, we probably could have used him and he might even have played well, but he's just absolutely useless against this rotation. There's not one person in the Philly rotation that he matched up well with. I thought he could at least take advantage of Drummond, and even Drummond just, took his cookies. Like, he just ate them alive. So yeah, the Vucevic experiment is over. It was a mission accomplished by Brad Stevens and the checkbook, but as a basketball trade, it is so disappointing.
I'm cool with Luka Garza sticking around as well. So maybe it is just finding a better number two, number three big. Maybe I just Nimi, I think in other series, if like they'd like I think he could have done well. But when you look at the bigs that you're gonna face in the postseason, you're gonna have Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen. I think Nimi actually matches up okay there,
Same.
especially more against Allen than Mobley. I think Mobley will take his cookies there. Carl Anthony Towns is going to be an absolute nightmare. And then obviously Embiid. I think that you do need a perimeter capable big to be able to be switchable with Nimi to be a viable presence defensively in the postseason. It's just they're not easy to find. We thought we had it with Xavier Tillman. It never worked out that way. They are really not, and the reason they're not easy to find is because one, they're valuable, and when teams have them, they don't want to let go. And two, because there's just not that many of them in the NBA. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be a little bit of a fact-finding mission. One thing that I felt myself questioning this morning, and I don't know whether this is just kind of like an in-the-moment fleeting thought. When I look at the season now, and I'm like, dude, you did everything you did to be eliminated in the first round, and now you have a 27th pick in a loaded draft class. I'm like, I was never really high on the idea of tanking. I was for it if that was what happened. If you remember at the start of the season, I was very much like, give it 20 games. If you're trash, then pull the plug. If you're not, then do the best you can to be as competitive as you can. And obviously, they did the best they could to be as competitive as they could. But now looking back at it, I'm like, damn, dude, we're at the bottom of the first round in the draft. And it was a loaded ass class as well.
Totally stacked draft. But I guess it's kind of an equation you have to ask yourself. Was the young guys' development this season worth not getting a better pick? Because Baylor, Walsh even, which is surprising, Ugo, all these guys, even Kada, I mean, they really benefited from having a real season and not a tanking season. They didn't pick up these bad habits that these guys on tanking teams pick up. So I don't know how to weigh it. But I mean, if you look at the press conferences from Pritchard, from Brown, the way they, even Joe, the way they all talked like Pritchard even had a quote talking about like, yeah, we didn't win the championship this year, but this is the kind of season that you're going to remember when we do win our next championship. This is like where the building blocks started. This is something that like, it was the beginning of something. And I thought it was really interesting. Like even at the end of the game, the new owner, he shook everyone's hand on the way out. Like he thanked them for a great season. I know a lot of fans don't like that right now. They're feeling disappointed. We blew a 3-1 lead. There's a million negative things you can say, but nobody acted like this was a bad season or like we failed. They feel like we accomplished something this year. And I'm trying to get into that mindset.
Yeah, and I think that's the right mindset to have. Like I said, my kind of looking at the draft pick was a very fleeting thought not long after I woke up, but it was a thought that stuck out to me because I hadn't thought about a high draft pick for months. And then you just look back at it and it's kind of like wishful thinking, oh, what if they've got a high pick? But you are right, the development has been great. Now, the question is, who do the Celtics keep heading into next season? Because most of the dudes you just named outside of Shyman have team options. Neemias Keita, team option. Amari Williams obviously hasn't really shown much at the moment. Team option. Jordan Walsh, team option. Ron Harper Jr., Delano Banton, Shulga, all team options. Who did the Celtics double down on and keep long term, or at least pick up the option for? Versus who do they let walk, and where does the flexibility to improve what they've already got come from? Because if they're trying to stay under the tax again, then they're right there. It'd have to be via trades, and I'm not about to sit here and be like, you need to trade one of the Jays, because I think that one, that's a played out narrative. Two, if it happens, it happens, and I don't think there's a point in kind of pushing that because we've seen how successful the team can be with both Jays. But on the flip side, where does your improvement come from when you're close to being at the tax versus who do you double down with on that bench rotation that are young and developing?
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be sexy picks. I think you do need a backup big and you need a guard that can score. I do think you make the phone call to Simons. I think his suitors are going to be way out of our price range, but I do think you try to get somebody like that. Then you try to find a good budget backup big, stay under that first apron at least. I actually expect them to just stay under the tax. If we just pick up these team options and keep most of these guys, we're essentially at 14 players already. So you use maybe like the non-taxpayer MLE. You maybe use some of these exceptions, some of these trade exceptions we have, and you can kind of budget a 15-man, 14-man roster with staying under the tax with some improvement. You're bringing back a rested Tatum after a year, and hopefully a backup guard that can score and a backup big.
If you were going for another young big, just say, and like I could again, I want to talk myself out of this before we start because the big I'm about to suggest you already have a playmaking big in Amari Williams. But I've kind of become a little bit of a fan of Ade Mara from
Mm.
Michigan. 7'3", can play make a bunch. Again, he's another drop big, but he's like such a rim deterrent, got great length. I've looked at a couple of mock drafts. People are expecting him to sit around that 20 range. It's not much of a jump for the Celtics to move up from 27 to 20, 27 to 21, try and pick up another big like that. That could be a way that they go to round out that big man rotation. And again, they could just like what they see from Amari Williams and be like, yo, Nimi, Luka, Amari, that's our big. And you just hope that Amari's got enough mobility to be able to give you something outside of a drop defensive coverage. So it goes a long way to kind of be like, we're going to be debating who's going to fill that big man spot for the next few months. I think it's going to become very frustrating for people that it's going to be one of the leading conversation pieces. But as you said, it is all about finding those cost control pieces to kind of slot back in and then building on what they've accomplished this season. It's just such a sour ending, man. And I think that sometimes we have to remember that just because you're in the middle of a fairy tale run doesn't mean you're going to get a fairy tale ending.
Yeah, you just can't get yourself worked up over a shoot, right? I mean, we really got sold like, man, we started believing our own bullshit. Oh, this team's a contender. This team can make it to the finals. And it's like, let's slow the brakes. Yes, we played well, but the regular season is a completely different sport than the playoffs. You get the wrong matchup in the playoffs, it don't matter. Look at what Detroit's going through. They might survive, but that's a 60-win team that's on the ropes in the first round and really could have lost already if Orlando didn't have the worst second half in NBA history.
Matchups, dude, matchups can really make or break you. And we just found that out. Look, man, nobody expected NBA to do this. I think that when you look at the guard matchups as well, just Derek White was in hell for most of that series.
Yeah.
Again, I don't expect him to be traded neither. Now, there is a world where the Celtics just go wild and do whatever they need to do, but matchups make wins or losses. And this Celtics team isn't the matchup busting one of 2024, 2020, like, and then into 2025. It's not that team. You needed matchups that were, what's the word I'm looking for here? Favorable. You
There you
needed
go. Yeah.
favorable matchups, and they just weren't available in this series, and they probably wouldn't have been available in the next series. And that's just the reality. So there are improvements that need to be made, and you can build on the development this year, but until you address the matchups that you're going to face in the postseason, we're going to keep being back in this position. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they balance continued development with actual, genuine, tangible improvement towards like the roster construction.
And I know we're going to do this summer just because this is the tendency, but the White trades, the Brown trades, putting them in every kind of possible matchup. I don't want to hear about Kevin Durant. I don't want to hear about Giannis. I just don't see Brad doing that kind of move and messing up what they're building here. I mean, as much as I would love Giannis, how does he fit? Even if you can somehow manage to get him with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, let's say we get this mythical big three. Is Jaylen Brown really going to go to the third option? Like his comments today say the opposite. Said this is the most fun season he's ever had.
Now you've got the question, does he go back to the number two? And this is going to be where the conversation comes. And look, we have all summer for this. I don't want to get into it right now. What I will say is if you move for Giannis, and this is where I'm going to leave it at this, then I do not see a world where Giannis and Brown, in terms of a basketball fit, a viable option for Boston. Giannis and Tatum, now the spacing's there, you can do a lot with that. The problem is, obviously, is Tatum going to be the Iron Man that he was before? He obviously missed game 7 because of leg stiffness, and I'm all for that. I tweeted out it's best to sit him. Don't risk an injury on the opposite leg. But Giannis has injury issues of his own, and he's not an Iron Man guy. And if Tatum's going to need to be managed throughout the regular season moving forward, then, high seedings could become wishful thinking at times, especially if you're going to have to be rotating between Giannis and Tatum. So I'm not sure that Brad does it, but if he does, I really don't see how you can have two complete downhill threats like Brown and Giannis and expect them to both be uplifting each other's performances. It could happen. It's just, spacing's a real thing in the NBA. Only if your two best players aren't spacing the floor, you're kind of fucked. With that, I don't know where else you want to take this right now. I think the other thing we need to talk about is potentially finding someone to partner Derek White that can give you more defense. And like we spoke about this before, I think last season, someone like Chris Dunn, that, you take some of that defensive responsibility away from Derek White to unlock him a little bit more on offense. I think that throughout the season, we saw D White play some stellar lockdown defense on the perimeter, but when you've got Jalen being dragged more into wing defense, you need another guy that can pick up a guard. And White was just getting burnt on defense, and it was impacting him on offense as well. So I think finding we have the Pritchard of it all, where you're going to get the offensive spark off the bench, but I think you do need a defensive guard to be able to lean on at times.
Yeah, and I wonder if they look to the draft with that. I don't know if there's maybe somebody in the G League but they do have to fix this guard rotation, because basically having only two players that can dribble gets exposed, because what NBA teams really do now, they play at least two ball handlers at a time. And you saw our best lineups were with Pritchard and White in the backcourt. You just want that extra guy that can just be competent, bring up the ball fast, and not get trapped like a Jalen. Or even, Tatum gets doubled a lot when he's bringing up the ball too, and it slows the offense down sometimes. So you just want that secondary ball handler that you can rely on. Like, that's why some of our best lineups throughout the year were still the ones with White and Simons in the backcourt, or Simons and Pritchard. Any combination of those three with White, Simons, and Pritchard, it was just, it was magic in a bottle, man. I keep bringing up Simons. I know we're going to have to find the next version of him because he's just going to be too expensive. But, man, that kid was special. The Inferno is missed.
Yeah, his scoring outburst could have really helped the Celtics in this series. But again, look, I wrote about this again. I wrote about it during the pre-series preview that I did, where it was like the Sixers are going to bait you. And we spoke about this on the last episode and the episode before that. The Sixers are going to bait you into freeze, and then they're going to use their length and ability to close you down as you go into your shooting motion to impact them. And that's what they did all series long. And when you look at the way the Celtics started to play once Embiid was back, and Philly felt a lot more comfortable having somebody to drop and protect the rim, so they were more empowered to close out hard and use that length. The Celtics' 3-point percentage just started to dwindle rapidly because the Sixers played their brand of basketball. So what I'm getting at here is, even if you had Simons, the way the Sixers were set up to trap you when you were going into your 3-point heavy offense and your quality metrics to like shot quality, their whole system is designed to trap you into that. And I think Simons would have fell into that same trap because he's that same type of flamethrower. And I think you needed somebody really that was going to kind of buck that trend and get into the paint and test you consistently. And I'm not sure Simons would have been the guy that swung this series.
Probably not, just because the Embiid of it all. He just established himself as a top 15 player in the league again, and I don't know how long it lasts. It might only last one series. You can't count on that long term. There was 5 times he fell during this last game where you thought, oh, he's not getting back up, he might be done for the game. But when he's on the court and playing, there's a reason this guy was the MVP. As much as I don't like him, fuck, man, I respect him, man. Like, that was some warrior shit he pulled off.
I think the next thing to do, and if you're watching on YouTube, this is going to be a lot easier than if you're listening on the podcast version, is to look at just the overall Celtics roster heading into the offseason. And credit to Bobby Marks for this graphic. Again, if you're listening on the podcast, I'm going to put it in the podcast promo article, so maybe that helps. But otherwise, we're kind of just going to have to run through it verbally for you. I do apologize. So up on the screen, starting 5, this is the projection. Well, this is this season's starting 5: Derek White, Sam Hauser, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Nemi. Reserves: Pritchard, Shyman, Gonzalez, Shulga, Harper, Banton, Walsh, Garza, and Williams. Projected salary, 188 million. Luxury taxes, 201 million, which is where I was saying they're right at that tax line right now. Free agents right now is Vooch, and then you've got all your team options: Cater, Williams, Walsh, Harper Jr., Banton, Shulga, and Tunji, who's restricted. And then your exceptions. And then your picks, 27 and 42. So the reason we've put this up now is because I want to go through the team options and I want to predict whether or not the Celtics pick them up one by one. I think that's the best thing to go from here. And look, I understand that the Celtics set some bad history yesterday by having 3 starters score 0 points, which was apparently the first time in NBA history that's happened in a playoff game. Well, it's not a good record to set.
No.
Right. Harper Jr., do you think they pick up the team option or do they let him walk?
No, that's the team option. He's shown enough. I know he was deer in the headlights last night, but besides that, he's been pretty solid. There's something there.
Delano Banton, team option or let him walk?
Gone.
Jordan Walsh, team option or let him walk?
Team option. Cheap. And he's shown some good defense. His numbers on Maxey for the series are actually like excellent. And considering Maxey's like just been a freaking blur, just destroyed us, I think there is something there. And as much as I want to jump off the Jordan Walsh business, I can't yet.
Amari Williams, team option or let him walk?
Absolutely. He's just too cheap. There's something there. He's springy. There's something.
Max Shulga, team option or let him walk?
That's the 50-50. He has to have a good summer league.
Nimi, team option or let him walk?
They're not going to let him walk. The best way financially to do this is give him the team option so his salary still is extremely low this year, and then extend him so that all of his getting paid doesn't start till next year. Because if you don't do that and you pay him immediately, we just used up that little bit of space between where we're at now and the luxury tax. So you absolutely have to pick up the team option, but you got to get a wink deal that he's going to extend for the 3 or 4 years, because if not, you're going to just mess up all your cap just paying Nini for next season. And I don't think that's a good place to be.
And then you got the John Tonji of it all who's restricted.
Yeah.
Like, Celtics need to make a decision what to do there. Exceptions, they've got the non-tax mid-level exception of 15 million, the biannual exception of 5.5 million. They've got 5 trade TPEs, 27.7 million, 8.2, 4.7, 2.5, and 2.3. Now, the Celtics are notoriously bad at using these traded player exceptions, and I do not expect to see many of them used. You've got your Vector minimum, your first round, your second round.
Just about the exceptions, the non-tax, the biannual, and any of those trade exceptions, if you use them, it hard caps you at that first apron number of 209 million. And that would limit basically your flexibility if a big fish did become available, say at the trade deadline, and you wanted to make a crazy move. That's the only reason I don't see really any of those being used. I think we could do some MLE stuff. We could do, I don't see any of the trade exceptions. It just doesn't make sense, because why get all this flexibility and then throw it away unless there's something in there with that trade exception that you could pull out a miracle for with that 27 million. I just don't see it on paper.
With the TPE, you're not automatically hard capped though. So there are ways around it when using the TPE. I think that's going to be, I've just pulled it up here. It can't, but using one can trigger the hard cap at the first apron if you're already over the cap.
Yes.
That's where it happens. So they're okay right now to use one because they're not already over the cap. But if they make a move to pick somebody up and then use the TPE, that's when they become hard capped, and that's when things get difficult.
Yeah, that's where I just think you're just so boxed in. Is there anybody you would take a shot at with them? Like just somebody that's sitting there that, maybe another team wants to get rid of? Rob Williams is up, right? So he wouldn't be an option.
No, if a Congrou comes available, then a Congrou.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would have to. I'm kind of at the point now where I haven't even started thinking about the future right now. I'm kind of just in my feelings a little bit, and I'm letting myself sit there. And I think that's perfectly acceptable less than 12 hours after a Game 7 defeat when you were up 3-1. You know what I mean? So I think, I'm okay just being in my feelings for the moment. I'll start looking towards the future in a day or two. But right now, I'm kind of just like, I understand that what I look for in a basketball player is what is different to what other people look for in a basketball player. So I'm kind of trying to let the emotions die down, and so I can give rational ideas without me just being like, well, I don't really like the idea of a defense only guy in Jordan Walsh. We need to do, because that's not really helping anybody. But right now I'm just in my feelings. I think that's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah, it's total. This is the Celtics therapy session. I mean, that's what we should call this whole episode. We're just talking it out. We're in it. We're freaking feeling it, man. It was dark, man. It was pretty bleak.
I think where I'm at right now is Vucevic. The only thing I've got to say is Vucevic should not be back. And if you're going to keep Nemi as the starting five, which is okay, you're going to need a versatile defensive big on the bench. And look, Luka Garza's great. I want him to pick up a second spot in that rotation on games that make sense. But this series was screaming for versatility at the five, and there was no option available. And that wasn't the only problem. Like obviously, Derek White, you didn't really have anyone to back him up defensively at the guard spots that could help. There was a few different pieces that are missing. I think that Al Horford was definitely the ex-Celtic missed the most, but Drew Holiday's presence on the floor in this game in this series would have been monumental to have. And so, like, how'd you go find another Drew?
Yeah, I mean, just
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, there's not that many guys out there that's going to give you that level of defense with the shot creation. I mean, the guy was a creator. He would have opened so many more things up for us just by his driving and passing ability. I
The only thing that bothers me is like if you look at what happened to Milwaukee in the years after Drew left, I'm like, oh, dude, I hope you know what I mean. Like, don't collapse like Milwaukee. Milwaukee are in a dark, dark place right now.
Well, the good thing is
Like,
they didn't mortgage the future. We have essentially all of our
no,
picks. Our what 2032 pick became unfrozen because we're getting out of this, second apron hell. I mean, we got the flexibility. We didn't, put all of our eggs in the Dame Lillard or Miles Turner basket like Milwaukee did. So we got hope, but I don't want fans to be thinking like this is gonna be, one of those summers where 4th of July, oh man, we just got Giannis, we just got Kevin
I
Durant.
mean, it could happen. Like, we're not saying it's not going. Like, anything can happen. And I think that one of the things to realize in the NBA is if Luka Doncic can get traded, anybody can get traded. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, we don't like the fit of Vucevic, no, sorry, the fit of Giannis, so it's not going to happen. Like, anything can happen. Is it likely? No. Is it a possibility? Of course. I think that's the fairest way. I think that I very rarely try to speak in absolutes when it comes to the NBA because there are none. And I think that when you try and speak in absolutes, you hear a lot of people, and this is kind of like getting off topic a little bit, but especially as like a writer and a creator, you hear a lot of people be like, oh, you need to have conviction in your takes. You need to stand on, like, don't hedge, don't don't embrace nuance. And I'm like, no, because that's not what I want to be and not who I am. Like, there is nuance in this and there is hedging because we don't know. We're talking about uncertainties. So my stance has always been like, I'll be firm on it, but like I'm firm on the fact that shit can happen and like it's unlikely to happen, but that shit can still go down. Not going to go all Bill Simmons and start doing a trade like I don't know if you saw the one he did the other week with Golden State, and he mocked a trade that got Clay, Durant, and LeBron into Golden State all in one. And I'm like, dude, we're playing some NBA 2K shit. I'm not about to go that far. But look, yeah, I don't think Giannis lands in Boston, but I also think that saying it's not going to happen unequivocally, that's kind of at the question too.
Yeah, because Brad's going to make the call. I mean, obviously, every GM in the league wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't, at least offer a package, be like, hey, would you guys take this? I just don't see the core being shuffled. I think the Jays are safe, and I think White is borderline safe unless it's something that's a total knockout. I do think
Yeah.
there are options. Like, I mean, I didn't like the offer from Toronto last year. Like, they offered us like their lottery pick, which ended up being only like number 9 for White. It has to be a heck of a lot more than that. But I mean, there might be a Godfather offer like that can maybe, make you look the other way. I mean, I'm not going to get into like some of the crazy ones I'm already seeing, like White and something for AD, and you just try to put AD on the KP regime where you just manage him for 1 year and make a run. I don't know if that's the right option, but it's interesting.
What I will say is, if we're talking about trade candidates, I think Shyman's evolution this year and the fact that Shyman can do more in terms of completeness in his game, do like put the ball on the floor, do this, do that. I think that Shyman's development and emergence means that Hauser is probably borderline available in trade discussions, if not available. I don't think he had a great series. He shot the ball really well, but I don't think he played great against Philly. This has been one of his worst years, actually, as a part of the Celtics. And he's on a really good deal, team-friendly deal that can, teams are going to want, and who doesn't want a high-level, like, catch and shoot guy to add space into the floor? So, if they are going to make a trade, I think Hauser might be one of the guys to go. I think that anyone talking about trading Jalen is probably in their feelings a little bit, but I also get the allure of selling high on a guy, and I don't think Jalen Brown's stock will ever be as high as what it is now. Doesn't mean they should trade him, doesn't mean I want them to trade him, but in terms of selling high, this is the highest it's probably going to be.
Yeah, it would have to just be a legendary haul. Like, I don't even know what it would even
like
be.
more than the Gobert haul, dude. Like, unless you were getting like a Wemby, like it's the draft pick haul is going to be insane. And Boston just aren't at that point in their timeline right now. Like, they're not trying to accumulate assets to rebuild or anything like that. So unless you're getting back like Wembanyama, or I wouldn't even say Doncic because I wouldn't want Doncic. And then Wemby, I think Wemby, unless you're getting back a Wemby, and would you do Anthony Edwards? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But we're talking like top tier returns. I don't see that.
Or like at a high level 2-for-1. Like, if you gave me Sengun and Thompson for Brown, I would do it.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
maybe. Would you do Brown for Banchero? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
No.
Would you do Brown for Bam and Powell?
I fucking love Bam.
I know. I love Bam too.
I just don't think that's. You see, this is the thing, right? Because Brown is the best player in that entire deal. Bam would do wonders.
He would unlock
for the
so
Celtics
much for us.
So much. But then you need to replicate Brown's scoring. I think Powell can give you some of that. I don't know. I'd love Bam, but I'm staying the hell away from that one. I'm not having angry people in my mentions. So I'm going to be there would need to be other things coming back to Boston to sweeten that pot. And that would be whether that's draft assets or whether there's a third team involved. I don't care, but there would need to be more.
Yeah. And I think that's the only way, where it's like two really good, borderline great players for one. The 1-for-1, they're just out of the question. Like, I'm not trading Brown for Mitchell. I'm not trading Brown for Banchero. I'm
trading Brown for Wemby.
Oh, okay. That's a 1-for-1 I'll take. I'll give you that one.
Yeah. It's not happening. But, since we're going Galaxy Brain right now, I'll go Brown for Wemby. But who wouldn't?
And honestly, Brown had a horrible first quarter tonight, but he really did give it his all, and he was actually pretty impressive. Like, I know down the stretch, man, those are just make-miss shots, but he fought his fucking ass off, man. And like I said, I respect it. The whole team, like, I mean, for them to be in that game down the stretch, 3 minutes left, 1-point game, I mean, that was a battle.
I'm going to be honest. I've really enjoyed this season, and I really liked the team that they've got, but I need changes. And that's kind of where I'm standing on this. Like, if you run it back with this team and you just add a few like so-so pieces, then I'm going to take it as you're punting next season. You know what I mean? And I understand you're probably going to stay out of the tax because you want to reset that repeater and you need to be out of it for another season. Okay. But if it's this same unit with another rookie and maybe a low-cost addition, and maybe you just make one small trade, then this team is still going to be far away, and you're wasting another year of the JTJB prime. So it's really difficult to find that balancing act right now. Maybe the Celtics don't care about the repeated tax. Maybe they got out of the tax this year because what was the point in paying it when you weren't going to have Jason Tatum at his prime, like at his very best? Nobody expected that version of Jason Tatum we just saw. If that's the case and you're willing to go back into the aprons, then make the moves you need to make. But if you're going to stay under the tax to reset or repeat to the next season, then this team is not going to be good enough. And that's going to be really frustrating coming into the season, knowing you have two elite wings that are directly in their primes right now and you're punting another season.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I stand on it.
It'd be really disappointing if we're just basically just hoping for the internal development, which is going to happen. These guys are going to get better, but it's not going to
not better enough.
Not in the way like to win a title yet. And I think we have to be in title mode. Like, it's banner or nothing mode, because I mean, how many more years of the Jays prime together are we going to have? I mean,
and this is where I'm at. Like, you do what you need to do at this point, because this team was clearly not good enough. And like I said earlier in the episode, like, even if you got past Philly with these mismatches, these like matchups that made your life hell, you weren't getting past New York, because New York match up with you better than Philly match up with you. So you need to go out there and make some moves. I think that just relying on internal development would be very naive. I don't see Brad Stevens as a naive person in the slightest. I think he's got arguably one of the best basketball minds on the planet. I think he understands a lot more than what anyone gives him credit for, and we give him a shitload of credit. What I will say is that big man rotation needs upgrading. You need a defensive guard that can still put up numbers. I'm not one for just like high defensive profile guys that can't give you much offensively. It's why I've never been too high on Jordan Walsh. I think that Shyman's already proven himself, so maybe he can move on from Hauser. I'm not sold on whether you bring back Walsh if it means not giving Ugo additional minutes. Maybe like there's questions I've got where it's like, I get that we like these guys, but if you don't bring Walsh back, Ugo gets like a massive boost of consistent playing time. And if you're higher on Ugo than you are on Jordan, like there's so many questions that need answering. But right now, I'm just like, you cannot just run it back with a few small additions and think that's going to make a difference, because it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. And the things to watch for, we got to watch what they do with this Kada team option. Like I said, it would really screw us if they just decide to pay him outright instead of
They wouldn't. You got Mike Zarin doing this shit, man. It's going to be fine.
the god, the goat. And then also October 1st, Pritchard's up for an extension too. So even though he's got like 2 years left, it's extension talk time. So I would also
Sign that, man.
pay them. He's been underpaid for so long. We can give him a little extension money down the road.
Give that man some love, dude. Like, that's where I'm at with it. I think anywhere else now, I'm just going to be going around in circles. I know me and Mike are going to record tomorrow, and we're kind of going to look at things in a bit of a different light. And then we're into postseason content. So now, I'm going to start reaching out to scouts, reaching out to draft guys, start getting some draft profiles. We'll start bringing some people in for some interviews there so we can start seeing what's going on, get some draft experts to fill us in. And we're just going to have to start leaning into the off season. Everyone, man, I hope you enjoyed this season. Like, it's been a bit inconsistent on this channel while we're kind of finding a rhythm. I feel like we've really found that lately, which is kind of great because now we can go into the off season strong, looking at it from a personal standpoint. I want to shout out everyone that's rocked with us all year. I want to shout out everyone that's going to rock with us next year. And listen, if you're not subscribed to the Celtics Chronicle yet, come and rock with me there. It's recently been a Substack bestseller. It's got that little check mark and everything now. Doing well. Slow growth is still better than no growth. Show some love there. And again, if you're a film buff, go show Billy some love over at Letterboxd.
Yeah, we're kind of
Billy,
blowing
where
up
are you
over
on
there. CBO 041. We're pretty much making our way through the year. A movie a day. It's still happening, man. We're making it work.
Until next time, I guess wait to say go seas. I don't know.
Gap year, right?
Peace. Yeah, gap year on free. Vacay on free. 1, 2, 3, vacay.